focus. Ideate, innovate, enable. YES Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.
Hello and a very warm welcome to YES Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance. I'm your host Mugdha Kalra and I'm delighted to welcome you all. We have with us a visionary leader with over 35 years of experience in the banking industry. Please join me in welcoming the turnaround specialist and the chief architect of YES Bank of today, Mr. Prashant Kumar, MD and CEO, YES Bank, for the opening address.
Very good evening to all of you. Today, all of us, I think we are quite fortunate to be born in this country, who is already a fifth largest economy and aspiring to be the third largest by 2030. And this aspiration is absolutely, there is a very clear-cut roadmap in terms of how to become the third largest economy and how to achieve that $10 trillion economy by 2030. I think the third quarter number in terms of GDP growth has been a clear-cut signal towards this. This vision of our Honorable Prime Minister in making our country as a Viksit Bharat by 2047, the 100 years of our independence, is very critical. And whenever we talk about a country becoming the developed country, we don't talk about the third largest economy or maybe the second or fourth. We talk about where each countryman moves from that poverty line to a better growth story, becomes part of that growth story. So I think the whole objective of this event is in terms of how all of us work together in terms of taking the entire country, the entire population of the country, towards that story, become part of that story, where we continue to cement, strengthen the position of our country. I think there are 4 or 5 things, if we dwell on this, if we continue to work on this, would be very critical. One part has been very, very clear, that for a country to become the manufacturing hub, to become a significant player for the exports, how we are going to support the MSME. And for MSME, we require something around 250 billions of the investment for the credit. And for that, I think both banking sector as well as in terms of the private capex would be very critical. The second part would be in terms of, if we see our country, I think the startup ecosystem, our country is a significant player. How we going forward, we need to support the startup ecosystem, where not only we would be encouraging the entrepreneurial skills, but we would also be supporting the innovation. Another significant area on the self-reliance would be how we continue to move on the energy front, and especially the renewable energy. Another very big factor would also be in terms of how the economies are able to leverage the advantage of the digital capabilities or the digital infrastructure. We in YES Bank are trying our bit in terms of contributing to each of those critical areas for the country. Whether we talk about the MSMEs, we are very proud that today 30% of our balance sheet is actually the contribution to the MSME sector. Similarly, bank has been very strong on the infrastructure financing, and within our own limited capabilities, we would continue to use that expertise in terms of how we can do the infrastructure financing along with all the other banks together. Similarly, on the ESG front, we have been in the forefront. And today, we have been rated highest amongst all the Indian banks on the ESG front by the international agencies. Similarly, on the digital side, we are again proud to share with you, all of you, that out of 12 billion UPI transactions which are happening in the country every month, almost 4 billion transactions, which is more than 30%, is being processed by the YES Bank facilities. We have also come out with our own app, which we launched 15 days back. It's a Make in India app for the transaction, which is YES Pay Next. I think I would request all of you to please use this and give your feedback. It gives me a great delight to announce the launch of our newest market offering in New Delhi that aims in terms of partner the HNI business owners as well as the C-suite, the corporate India, in their endeavor to leverage the opportunities on the road towards a $10 trillion Indian economy. And we call this offering as YES Private. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I invite Mr. Prashant Tripathi, MD and CEO, Max Life Insurance, for a very special address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The topic that I'm going to discuss and talk about is making decisions that will shape India and its journey to the 10 trillion. It took independent India 60 years, 60 years, to get to its first trillion. The second one took 7 years. The third one took 5. So I think we were talking about this golden period. I think it is a snowball which is forming, and every next trillion is going to be easy. In life insurance business, to all our advisors and employees, we teach the rule of 72, which means whatever is the percentage, and on a nominal basis, if we all believe that GDP will grow at, say, 7%, and the inflation of 5, that makes about 12. Divide 72 by that number. That's how long it's going to take to double. So if India becomes 5 trillion in 2024-25, it will take exactly 6 years on a nominal basis to hit a dollar equivalent, assuming dollar and Indian currency remains flat. It will take about 6 years. So 2030 is the number. But like I said, rather than debating when that's going to happen, I think the focus must be on making the GDP growth rate alive. I think that's the big debate. And for the first time, the monetary policy as well as the fiscal policy is working, is predictable, it is delivering the outcomes which India so much requires. So that part of consistency, stability is working in our favor, and that's fantastic. I think the second part, which will be needed, and a lot of work has already taken place, is around financial inclusion and looking after the social welfare. Of course, digitization has helped, but if you really look at the way some of these tools got democratized, and we all talk about UPI, but more than that, many of these programs went down to every level of the society and created this inclusivity, has helped us, and I think we must remain at it, because this 10 trillion is a good number provided everybody in this country is a beneficiary of that 10 trillion. More closer to my industry, which is life insurance industry, I think we are blessed to have a similar vision. IRDAI chairman is a visionary man, and he has laid the vision of hitting insurance for all by 2047. And a lot of work actually happened over the last 2 to 3 years in that space. The compliances have been made significantly easier. There's focus on innovation. New products could be created faster. More bandwidth in terms of distribution. More relationships allowed. So there's work that has taken place, and we are seeing the benefit of that. The number of products the industry is able to launch now is of a higher number. The partnerships that are now becoming more relevant are increasing. However, the work is far from done. We all track these numbers, some of these numbers, because you may not be from the industry. We have about 3.2% penetration as GDP of life insurance premium. Developed economies will be running at 6 and 7, so we are kind of scratching the surface. The second part, which has not happened so well, is taking life insurance down to smaller cities, rural areas. That's the challenge all of us have got. So inclusivity, making sure that we are working very hard and taking all our organization with a vision which is similar to the 10 trillion vision or the 2047 vision. I think all of us must have our vision. I'm very proud and happy that we as Max Life Insurance have our own vision. But when we work together and we realize our individual visions, there is no force in the world which can stop India from hitting the 2031 number or 2047 number. Thank you very much.
YES Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance.
Our next panel, ladies and gentlemen, is titled Facilitating the Emerging Stars of Indian Businesses and is dedicated to the rise of new luminaries in the Indian business ecosystem. To moderate this session, may I invite on stage Editor Special Project, CNBC-TV18, Mridu Bhandari. Let me also invite our esteemed panelists now. Put your hands together for Akshay Gulati, co-founder Shiprocket. Anirudh Arun, co-founder and CEO, Blue Smart Fleet. And Ish Babbar, co-founder and CTO, Insurance Deco. Over to you, Mridu.
Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks very much for joining us. Since we are at the Growth Summit, I think I want quick opening comments from each of you on how you define growth, because in the startup ecosystem, there's always a debate between value and valuation when it comes to growth. So quick opening comments. Akshay, do you want to start?
Again, thank you so much for having me here today. Growth for us at Shiprocket it's not about value, it's not about valuation, it's about solving problems, right? When we started out in 2017, we were solving one single problem, which was making logistics easy. And today, for our customers, we're solving multiple problems, which is not just helping them solve logistics, it's about helping them increase orders, about helping them export. So for us, that's our growth. As a company, as a platform, being able to solve multiple problems for our customers. And I think value and valuation is a secondary aspect to the business growing.
It's a byproduct of solving problems. Anirudh, what about you?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And I completely agree that valuation is an outcome, and oftentimes it's confused because it's very measurable and it's very in your face and it's very difficult to ignore. But it's a byproduct, as you rightly said. What really matters, what growth means to me and probably us at Blue Smart, is creating, equitable, sustainable value for society. That might result in, great valuations, but unless that's sustainable in all formats, right? I mean, whether it's sustainable for the environment, whether it's sustainable for society, whether it's sustainable for, financially sustainable. I think creating that long-term value, I think that's going to be key to growth, especially in the context of the $10 trillion economy that we're talking about.
Right. Ish?
So I would say from an insurance sector perspective, it turns out to be getting everyone risk-free. Every Indian should be risk-free. Yeah. From a startup perspective, I believe ensuring that overall growth should really, it's not just valuation, but getting everyone into a stage where the gap in between rich and poor should really go down, so that you are able to have lots of opportunities created with which everyone is able to come on the platform. And with 3 different distinct points which are available, one is talent pool, second is funding, third turns out to be the opportunity of knowledge, which has now unlocked. They are able to use that to create a culture where we are able to challenge, not just looking at 10 trillion, but rather a far bigger number by 2030.
Right. Oh, bigger number by 2030. Well, that's a good goal to set for India, especially in election year. But we'll come to that in just a bit. Akshay, we are in New Delhi for this Growth Summit. This is the Delhi edition of the Growth Summit, and we are talking a lot about policy imperatives. So let's pick up the logistics sector first, which is where you operate in. And the national logistics policy is an ambitious one, aiming to make India a logistics hub for the world by 2030. Your first thoughts on that goal? And two, with this policy push, how have businesses like yours been able to expand faster? What sort of business development and new growth has happened? And what more can be done?
No, absolutely, and I think, we talk about the national logistics policy. I think it's been a great step forward in being able to make India one step closer towards becoming an export hub. Because when we talk about manufacturing, we talk about all these new industries setting up shop here. We have, outside of the domestic business that we have, there's an international market that we can cater to. And I think what's really happened for startups like ours, where we were catering to a lot of domestic logistics in the past, and we're still one of the largest aggregators out there, I think Indian sellers selling globally is a big theme that's taken shape in the last couple of years. It's about Indian products on in global stores, on global websites, and I think that's become much easier in the last 12 to 18 months because policy has been streamlined a lot. And I think for us, the biggest ask in this election year is the innovation and streamlining of policy from an export perspective, from a customs perspective to continue to go on. Because today, the heartbeat of the Indian economy are the MSMEs. And for them, they don't have these large corporations with hundreds of employees to look into the finer details of every policy framework that's there. For them, it's usually an entrepreneur with 2-3 people who are looking to produce products at a global standard and export to multiple countries. To make policy easy, to make the frameworks and the regulation easy, is the biggest ask I think we have from the SME side. Because it's not just about growth, it's about inclusive growth. We want growth in the tier 2, tier 3 towns of India. We call that Bharat Commerce, right? And I think that's going to be the biggest ask and the biggest push for e-commerce and logistics going forward.
Right, okay, never enough simplification of all the regulation that comes in. But what about you, Anirudh? There is, of course, a big policy push as far as electric mobility is concerned, as far as charging infrastructure is concerned. How would you rate ease of doing business on that front? And what's the next big challenge that you are tackling, especially on the regulatory front?
What we want from, policy making. So I would say broadly 3 things. One is, I think, policy continuity. The second is proactive policy making, especially because many of these sectors are rapidly evolving. Renewable energy is a rapidly evolving sector, clean mobility, electric mobility, hydrogen mobility, all of these are rapidly evolving. Plus there's the emergence of AI and digital technologies that interface a lot with mobility as well and pretty much disrupts everything, right? So how are we going to be proactive about it? And that brings me to the third point. I think it's also about creating an enabling environment. So we don't want to over-regulate. We want to, ideally give startups enough freedom, maybe sandbox environments where they could experiment with, certain outcomes without being, clamped down because of some, top-down policy making that doesn't really translate to the ground level. So I think broadly these 3 things, and I think we will be on the path to the 10 trillion.
Right. Always a tightrope when it comes to balancing regulation and innovation. But Ish, coming to you as well, one of the silver linings of COVID was, of course, the rapid digital transformation of various sectors that we've seen. And we've been talking about it for the last 3 years or so. In the insurance space as well, it's been a tremendous transformation that we've seen thanks to digital technologies. So give us a sense of, as CTO of the company, what are the big technology trends that you are going to be betting on, and how has policy making really helped with optimization of the entire insurtech ecosystem in India?
So there are a couple of things which has really happened. Like when we really see COVID as a disruptor, the digital adoption was huge. And as a blessing, I would say in a different hindsight, it has helped everyone to really start looking at policies to initially as health policies to be one of the mandatory things to really adopt for, right? From a second perspective, the biggest change which is really happening from a technology, we are looking at Gen AI, we are looking at Web 3.0, We are looking at, in parallel, how IoT can really help, and in different products, how it can make a big impact. And when we see overall, even the automobile world is changing with EV coming into equation, how insurances are really going to get into a stage 5 years from today is going to be a lot different compared to what it is today. When you're going to look into driverless technology to be more prevalent in India, how you're really going to look at insurances would be another different perspective. And when we see overall as Indian economy, which is also really changing more from a saving side mindset to an investment mindset, how the products are really going to shape up of both life investments is going to be a different perspective. At Insurance Teco, right now being in the middle, where we are turning out to be, in a way, kind of a intermediary, which is helping to pick up the right policy across from different insurers, turns out to be a huge gameplay. And we are right now looking at all the three in parallel.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing all your experiences and your incredible insights. And needless to say, the startup ecosystem will be a big push to India for achieving its 10 trillion goal. Huge round of applause for our panelists here. Thank you very much.
YES Bank and CNBC-TV18 present the Growth Summit Vision for a $10 trillion economy in association with Max Life Insurance. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.